And that explains all the negative space. What's going on, everybody? This is the Coverbandconfidential podcast, the podcast for cover band musicians and band leaders to learn how to rock more and sell less. In Atlanta, Georgia, I'm Adam Johnson.
In Greensboro, North Carolina, I'm Dan Ray.
So I've been talking about this damn wing rack for, I don't know, a billion years, and
You have.
I'm staring at it.
Awesome.
It's here. It arrived today, and I've been watching all the videos and looking through all the stuff, and somebody opened this thing up, and it is just big and cavernous in there.
Yeah, well, it needs a lot of frontage space for all of its inputs and outputs.
Yes.
But yeah, the board is not as, it's a little laptop size board, and then there's a lot of good breathing room for it, which is important because it makes a lot of heat, I bet.
Yes. So, I was hoping that we would have gotten a chance to try it out for this gig that happened on Saturday. I had said Friday, misspoke, but in this setup, we didn't get a chance to do that, but we'll go through that gig recap in just a minute. But how's it going, man?
Good. It's been a quiet kind of week. Getting my feet back under me after being out for 2 conferences in 3 weeks is a lot. So I'm now caught up pretty much on work, and at work trying to find my replacement bassist. Some of you may have heard that call for help on our last episode. I got some leads. We'll see. And making tracks for the rest of the songs we didn't deal with in our first show, and just, the project proceeds apace. I did, I think, I haven't heard like final confirmation, but I believe I have sold a weekly karaoke into a bar in town here. And so that's exciting. Be back in the game of a weekly gig.
Nice.
I did have to drop my price a little bit. I mean, the thing that I've come to understand is that I'm competing against karaoke DJs who charge $50 or trivia people who charge $20 in a bar tab.
Ew.
And charging like I'm a musician is just not compatible with venues' weekday event budgets. So the pitch I made was like, I'll drop my price for a quarter, and then we'll look and see if we've turned that night into something. The point of it is to build a community around it and a following around it. And so, yeah, we'll see. It's going to start first of the year, and yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, I mean, we won't get into the the specifics of it, but I'm getting an inclination that things are going to start tightening up early 2025.
I am starting to feel
for
that way
reasons.
Too. Yeah.
So I'm trying to lock down as much as we can before the end of the year, while those budgets are still being approved, because I fear that that might stop in short order.
Yeah.
Let's see. In our world, Kiddo went to Indianapolis, and Amber went along.
Awesome.
And got to see them compete. They did fantastic. They ended up placing, I think, just shy of top 50 in the nation. And he was a little disappointed that they didn't make it to semifinals. But I had to, when I went and picked him up, I was like, listen, in May of this year, you had never marched or done this before.
Right.
And in November, you went to the national championships.
Yeah.
You realize how incredible that is, right? And he was like, meh. But it's also because it turns out he has pneumonia. So that might have been part of it.
All right.
He celebrated his victorious return by sleeping all day and getting a Z-Pack.
Yeah, good plan.
Like you do.
Yeah. Oh, we had a kid accomplishment here too. My child was in her 3rd musical with this kids theater group.
Okay.
I don't know if I've talked about it on the pod. It's they were doing Frozen Junior, and
okay.
She was cast as Oaken, the shopkeep.
Yoo-hoo.
And in the musical of Frozen, which we saw when it came to Greensboro, there's a number that is done by Oaken and his whole family.
Okay.
In the sauna, and it's about how their whole thing is based on this Danish concept called hygge, which I don't know if you're familiar with hygge, but it's...
Oh, I'm very well aware of what hygge is. It is the coziness.
Coziness, family, chummy coziness. Yeah. And so...
We have a hygge welcome mat.
Okay, perfect. Well, I probably stepped on it. I missed that. I don't know. But there's a song about hygge, and in the original, in the Broadway show, it happens inside the sauna, and everyone's in like flesh-colored bodysuits. So like they're naked and they've got like linden boughs that they're like holding in front of themselves. It's hilarious. The junior version was not costumed that way, but my child did lead the whole Oaken family in a song about Hugo, and it was very much the showstopper. And yeah, it's her third show with this group, and she's just, her stage presence is like blossoming, and her dancing. Like in the last show, she was doing the steps, and in this
Yeah.
show, she was dancing. It was like a
Yeah.
whole different level.
Embracing her own Jimmy Jr.
All of that, yeah, yeah. So yes, that was very exciting. It's very exciting. It was a long weekend. She had a show Friday and then 2 Saturdays. So two what do they call it? Two doche
Mm-hmm.
is a
Yeah.
hard thing to get through.
I learned that from TikTok as a two doche.
Two doche, yes.
And, talking about like performing art stuff, the other thing that like has been completely inundating my just socials is the Wicked movie that is
Right.
coming up.
Oh, I mean, we all have to go.
Yes. And somebody, there was some commentary that it's the straight dude's like favorite musical. And I will literally sit there and I will watch all of these performances of whoever was Elphaba doing Defying Gravity, and I'll just sit there and just cry to myself
For sure.
every single time.
For sure. Yeah, absolutely.
As soon as they hit the "So if you care to fight," I'm done. I'm over.
Done.
It's over.
Done. Yeah, done. Done. Did you see Ariana on Hot Ones?
I have not seen that one yet.
It was pretty good. It was pretty good.
The women seem to do much better at that show than guys do for some reason.
I mean, the pain tolerance is built into them. It's a thing.
But the other thing that a lot of people are picking up on is the theater kidness of all of the interviews that press junket has kind of like
For sure.
presented.
Yep.
And everyone's like, why are they acting like this? I was like, everybody who's done theater knows that
Yep.
what that is. The only other thing I'll say about this is that there's a guy on TikTok who is doing Elphaba roulette, where he is sitting in front of a TV screen, but the TV is behind him, so he can't see it. And it is just snippets of live performances of Wicked from the ages. So from like the original to, whatever touring company in whatever city, whatever. And he is able to pick out the Elphaba just by listening to the singer. It is the craziest thing I've ever seen. There's like at least 5 of these videos now where he does like 7 or 8 of them off the cuff. It is truly remarkable stuff. Very nerdy.
Yeah.
In its own unique way. This has nothing to do with what we are talking about this week.
And yet everything.
Absolutely. Dan and I are both theater nerds at heart. That's where we came from.
Yep.
So, all right, let's shift gears though. So the Wing arrived today. Very stoked on that. The live band karaoke frat party happened on Saturday. And the way that I wrapped it up on the Patreon Slack is it wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. I hope I never have to do it again.
I've had gigs like this. Yes.
So the setup itself was kind of dicey. Again, we were on the wooden platforms, and I somehow, call it luck of the Irish, whatever you want to call it, I ended up on the wobbliest one. And it was so bad that if anybody even got like near the platform that my mic stand was on, I just had to walk away from it, because if I stood in front of my microphone, it would literally knock my teeth out.
Right.
So that's not great. Everybody was pretty well behaved. It was also very chaotic. There was over 100 people in a very small space. And just based on the way that the system was set up, it was hard to kind of keep people wrangled. Not to mention the fact that it started at 10:30 and it was maybe 50 degrees when we started. And so by the end of the night, my left hand had gone completely numb, which again makes it very hard to play guitar parts. But it all ended well. Everybody was happy. Nobody got hurt. Cops didn't show up. Yeah, all the stuff that needed to happen happened. But again, I don't want to roll in after a gig at 3 a.m. anymore if I can help it.
No.
It's just not the vibe that I'm after.
No.
So yeah.
Remember when we used to be proud of that? That used to be like the badge of honor. Like,
oh yeah.
That was, that was rock and roll.
Well, but that's the other thing is that like there's this whole thing in, we'll put an E on this episode, but like the prospect of eating shit
Hmm.
on a gig, like sure, okay. Yeah, I mean I slept on floors
Right.
in my 20s on tour and ate gas station food. I don't want to do that anymore.
Right.
And funny that, you bring that up. We actually got an inquiry for New Year's Eve today from an agency, and it was just like one bad criteria after the other. So I went into the band Slack and I was like, "Hey guys, do you want to play New Year's Eve question mark in Huntsville, Alabama question mark for the same money we make at literally every other gig question mark and production and travel are not included question mark?"
Mm.
And the general consensus was nah.
Yeah, we'll pass on
And
that.
so I very politely declined, but
Yeah. Yeah.
some things are worth locking in and other things, just aren't. You know what else isn't worth it? This week's review because there isn't one.
Mm.
So if you want to hear us mention your name or your band, or you want us to say something that you can put into your promo video, leave a review because if there isn't, then we don't talk about it.
Right.
Now that being said, that doesn't mean that like we have not been engaged with. I got a lot of feedback from last week's episode. Mark, who actually initiated the question in the first place, DM'd me this evening and was like, gave us a lot to talk about. But what I didn't know is that one of Mark's bandmates is actually in the Patreon Slack
About
and
that.
provided additional context to the situation.
Mhm.
I was not expecting that at all.
No, me neither.
So that was fun.
And they have a conversation to have now.
Oh, 100%. And that's what Mark said. It's like, this definitely gives us a lot to talk about.
That's right.
So, anytime we get reminded how small this world is,
Right.
it's always
Right.
kind of a fun thing. Also, had some folks reach out about doing the co-host thing while I'm in York.
Yes.
So, two of those came in today, and if you are on the fence and considering it, probably need to get that in because it's the last week of November when
Yeah,
I'm
it's coming right
skedaddling.
up. It's coming right
So
up.
get those requests in.
Yep. I'll make you sound like
Um,
a genius, I promise.
Absolutely. Dan is very good at yes anding, so
I am.
let him do that. Other general housekeeping stuff. So, one thing that has been brought to our attention is that Patreon is now offering the ability to gift memberships to different creators. So, if you are looking for ideas for yourself, I'm a hard person to shop for. I know that the things that I'm into are either outside of the price range of people that, are in my life. They can't necessarily buy me a Gretsch White Falcon, even though that's
Or
what I
a
really
or a
want.
Behringer wing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you're looking for gift ideas, or if you've got family members that are looking for gift ideas, suggest having them gift you a yearly membership to the Patreon. It, we've been thinking about potentially doing a discount just to kind of motivate folks to do that. If you think that's a good idea, email us coverbandconfidential@gmail.com. Now, the other thing that we need some feedback on is whether or not to do a musician gift guide this year.
Yeah.
We did it
Yeah.
last year and
Yeah.
it went over well. And
But the surveying we've done has said that the sort of list episodes, the bracket episodes, we'll probably never touch again because we were told
ever.
roundly that people had no interest in that.
Yeah.
Totally fair. Totally fair. But, listen, would you like to see us run down the things I'd most like to get for Christmas this year or something? We'd be game. But do you want to hear it?
The other thing is that like, how much of this would we retread? Now, we had a cool conversation today in the Patreon Slack about what are some things that you got this year that you think other people should have? And there were some amazing suggestions
Dude,
that
I
I
learned
never
about
even
some
thought about.
cool stuff in that thread.
What was the name of the power thing?
It's called MyVolt's Step Up connectors. And essentially, it takes any USB charger and steps it up to 9 volts or other, but it can power pedal board things.
When it's like
Uh,
selectable.
you can choose, and the tips are specific to positive and negative, and so you can really dial in power for any of your pedal board things, off of a consumer USB plug.
Yeah.
Wild. That's
Yeah.
really, really cool.
And we'll go ahead and put that in a link for that in the
For
show
sure,
notes
that's worth knowing about.
because
Shout out to
I had
Ando
never
Aparicio
heard
for
about it.
I know, Ando. Let us know about that.
Yeah, shout out to Ando from Anti Skip Protection
Yeah.
for recommending it. And there's some other cool stuff. And actually, there's been a lot of talk about the RJ45 to XLR breakouts. We actually
Yes.
Joey got a set for the new rack, which again I was mentioning that we took the split rack on its maiden voyage. Everything worked great. Everybody's got stereo ears, more inputs and outputs, and then with the wing, it's going to be even better. So very excited.
Yeah.
So if you're on the fence about the whole musician gift guide, if it was beneficial to you, if you have no idea what we're talking about, coverbandconfidential@gmail.com. Maybe I'll put a link to it in this week's show notes so you can
Yeah.
review what's currently on there. And
Yeah.
if there's anything that, maybe we left out or forgot about. The main thing, the thing that got the biggest traction on social media was the I don't want guitar shaped anything.
Right. Yeah.
And there were people that were like, yes, thank you for saying that. And other people were like, you guys are like, you're no fun, which I mean, fair critique.
Yeah.
We're not very much fun. But you know what is fun? This week's main topic.
It is fun. I mean, kind of. I'm sort of a jerk about it, but we'll get there.
So this week's topic comes from the Coverband Confidential email address. This is from Dane. And Dane says, just found your pod and I'm really enjoying it. Thank you. You're welcome, Dane.
Thank you, Dane.
If you did discuss this topic, I most likely haven't heard it yet since I'm binging to catch up. I see so many cover bands locally completely ignore the time between songs in their set list. I've been in multiple bands where we've had our show completely down, including transitions and locking songs together, where the show was push play and go for the entire set. We pre-planned and practiced our transitions, and it made things go much easier and more comfortable. I am having a hell of a time getting my current band to buy into the importance of knowing and understanding the importance of transitions. Whether it be locking songs together, starting the next song before the applause dies, taking a break to quickly thank the club staff, having our singer have a list of talking points to quickly go to in case there's a technical issue and we need to distract and kill time, introducing the song, or having some quick banter during the intro of a song, etc. We look like a band that just goes up and bangs out each song with dead air in between and misses out on opportunities to keep the crowd engaged, the energy up, and dancers on the floor. I can't remember what episode it was, but you guys did touch on it a little. I do remember hearing 5 seconds is too long in between songs, and unless someone is hollering at me, I'm counting the next song in, and I agree. 5 seconds feels like an eternity. I could go on, but I think you get the point and probably have a lot of examples, experiences, and or suggestions.
Oh, yeah.
Now, we'll kind of go into the next part of this as we, kind of go through the discussion.
Yes.
So the main conversation is, how do you keep the momentum going when your band's playing a show?
And Dane's right on it here. The main thing that I do is, well, look, let me back up. There are approaches that work that are not the one that I do. Okay. There are people who do a whole like storytelling thing between songs and they're engaging and they're amazing. That is a thing that can happen. Maybe not so much in the cover band world, it's kind of more of a singer songwriter thing, maybe.
Yeah.
But no, in our world, in my band, yeah, 5 seconds is the absolute max between songs. And when we get the track thing dialed in, I'm actually going to change it so that band helper fires the recording when I move into the song to just even cut out the time it takes me to find the play button and push play.
Right.
Because the time between songs is absolutely killer. It's absolutely critical. And with my band that doesn't use tracks, The New Strange, we have addressed that by putting together a bunch of medleys. Each of our sets, both, but if we're doing a 3-hour show, both sets probably has 3 medleys in it, which is maybe not half of the time of the set, but close to it. And so that means there's literally no time between songs. We don't necessarily do mashups. We don't like refer to songs inside songs, which we could do. We just haven't done the work of that. That's a whole other level of thing. But we do have songs that run right into one another and go for 18 to 20 minutes.
Sure.
And I think that's really great. I think it's really important. One of the things that when I played with people who didn't have a grip on this, what jumped out was between songs, there was this like, all right, you ready? This is more of like, ready? And I'm ready. I am. It's for in my band, the expectation is unless you're telling me otherwise, you're ready and I'm counting
Yeah.
in and we're going. Like, tell me if you're not, we'll do something. But the expectation is like the song ends, 1, 2, 3, we're going right into the next one. So I very much feel the message here that our Dane
Yes.
is asking about. I'm the same way. I want it to bang right into the next song. I don't want to lose a single drop of energy between tunes. And yeah, I feel that's pretty important.
Yeah, the thing that jumps out at me is what it sounds like is that he's been in groups where they had their act together.
Yeah,
And frankly, if you don't think about your show that way, you don't have your act together,
yeah.
because having your act together means your act is together and
Your whole
things are
act,
done.
the
Yes.
entire act.
Yes. The show is the priority, and it is considered, and those things are orchestrated in a way where things are flowing in the way that they're supposed to.
Yeah,
So, talking about the tools that we all use, so Band Helper for an example, you can go in and add breaks to
yes,
your song list in order to make sure that when transitions need to happen, when pauses need to happen, they can.
yep,
And you can add notes to those and basically like create an opportunity to share a piece of information. So when we put a show together, there are going to be periods of time where there's going to be changeover. People have to switch instruments. People have to pick something up to put something down. People have to tune, whatever. And you need to build those breaks into the show and almost build the show around them.
yes,
So things that I do, because as a vocalist, I'm not always the person playing an instrument. Sometimes I get to be just the lead singer. So when we print out our song list for or a set list for a show, I put asterisks next to all the songs that I play guitar on. And I try to put them into blocks as much as I can because
right.
that reduces downtime of me picking stuff up or having to check tuning or whatever. So that's something that you need to take into account when you are building your set order. The other thing is that you know that if you're doing a public show or there is a particular kind of itinerary for the event, that certain things need to be communicated to the audience. And it is much better for you to write those things out and put them together ahead of time
Hmm.
than to kind of do them willy nilly as you go.
Hope you remember them along the way. Yeah.
Right. And something that we've discussed a lot in the Patreon community is what to do in the moments where something does need to happen. How do you
Hmm.
keep the momentum going? I mean, this is pretty much just a continuation of what we were talking about last week.
Yes.
How do you keep the thing going? How do you keep the energy level up? How do you continue to engage with an audience when just logistical things have to happen? And to pick up, the rest of what Dane was mentioning, he was like, a lot of this falls on our singer because, if you've got a person who is fronting the band, they are kind of the ringleader. They're the person who's kind of controlling the flow of the show.
Yes.
And in their case, he's saying that their singer's not well versed in fronting a band, which is fair. A lot of times, singers aren't necessarily chosen. They kind of fall into it. So in a lot of situations,
Yeah. That's true.
people may not have practical experience fronting a group.
Yeah. And it's a different skill from singing.
Yep.
MCing, right? Being the person keeping the energy up and keeping the energy going. I mean, this is the thing. Like we think in party bands we are musicians. We're not. We are energy architects.
Yes, we're
And
entertainers.
yeah, and there's a really good podcast who has this thing that they say called always be performing.
Yes, absolutely.
And that means between songs too. So
Mhm.
always be performing, never not be performing. And that takes something that takes a song. And there was a my high school had a rock band that we did. It was the school's cover band essentially. I stood up my own because I was sick and tired of the music teacher, but
Mhm.
The band, the school had one, and the kid we had singing lead at our first performance of the year literally turned around, put his back to the audience, and sang to the band. Did the whole show facing away from the audience. And I was like, this is, I mean, Jim Morrison did that, but it was like an artistic show. There was more going on than what you're doing, buddy. This was poor. He was a good singer, but the what it takes to stand in front of an audience and be the focal point for that, and that's a different skill set. And
Yep.
you got to build it. You got, if
Yep.
you know, you're either born with the ability to, the spotlight hits you and you start to shine. I'm fortunate that I do have some training and skills around that I've built over time, but that is more my inclination than not. Not everyone's that way by any stretch. You're the
I'm
opposite.
not I'm not
Yeah,
that way.
yeah. So you've built skills to be able to, and it's not hard. Everybody
Well,
having
yeah.
fun tonight.
Well, yeah, and also there's different brand like flavors of persona.
Yeah,
The one that just works for me is that I've got a fantastic foil in my wife
right,
who is fantastic. She is that person.
right.
I I like playing the aloof kind of foil
Yeah,
to her.
right.
Because again, if there's two of those people in a band, that's too much.
Hmm.
So you do have to have a way to balance it out. But the thing that really this all boils down to is intentionality.
Mm.
So, the thing that Dane is mentioning is like at some point we need to have this come to Jesus moment. And it's the same conversation that is going to happen with Mark's band this week. We have to decide what kind of band we're going to be.
Yeah,
So in the process of building out your show, think about this stuff. Take the downtime into consideration and think about things that you can do to fill that space. So, at some point, Steve, the guitar player, is going to have to either switch guitars or tune to drop D. What are you going to do in that 45 seconds
right.
to 90 seconds where that turnover needs to happen?
Yep. And by the way, the frontman talking a little while the drummer just keeps a beat going, that's plenty.
That's one. Or maybe this turnover is something that, is going to take a little bit more time and you want to kind of switch gears and do something that isn't necessarily musical in nature, but entertaining or on brand with what you're trying to do.
Sure.
Uh, we talk a lot about trivia breaks
Hmm.
in the Patreon Slack. So if you're in like an eras group doing,
I have a deck of 80s trivia cards right
I've
here.
got one right over there too. So, that's a situation where it's a promo moment where you can go and, give out cheap giveaways like, your $5 DVDs or Shutter Shade.
Koozies. You've given a lot
Yeah.
of koozies away. Yeah.
But it's still a way to keep things moving while other stuff has to happen. And it's also kind of a good idea to have things in kind of your back pocket in the event that something goes awry.
Hmm.
So I'll just throw it out there. And Nathan, our drummer, needs to knock on wood or light a candle or whatever. Let's say after, in the middle of a song in the first set, he breaks his snare head or something goes wrong with his kick pedal. And all of a sudden we've got space to fill.
Hmm.
Well, that's a perfect opportunity to shift gears and be like, all right, well, let's do 80s trivia. We'll do 3 questions. We'll give out 3 things. And that gives him 90 seconds to 2 minutes to fix that problem.
Right.
And actually, Mike Schulte was asking this question. He was like, this sounded like a hypothetical that was not hypothetical. It seemed very specific. He was like,
Yeah.
Imagine you get the chance to open for a national act and they give you 45 minutes. How do you build that show?
Right.
And his question was basically, do you do 45 minutes on the dot? Do you do 40 minutes? Do you do 43 minutes? And everybody kind of came in with a different solution. The one that I came up with was you put that 45-minute show down to the millisecond, and then you include 1 or 2 contingencies in the event that it doesn't go 100% according to plan.
Right.
So do the whole show on rails, even if it means like literally, like instead of taking your tracks and doing it, like literally make 1 45-minute long track, including the downtime, and put interstitials, sound bites, sound effects, clips from movies, TV shows, whatever, to fill that dead air while you are switching guitars or doing whatever, but really taking the time to orchestrate it so it is perfect.
But you've also got a fallback plan for when your drummer's snare head breaks.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And this, again, it boils down to, are you thinking about this as a musician or are you thinking about this as an entertainer?
Yeah, and are you thinking about it? Look, a professional has their butt covered in a lot of contingencies, maybe not all of them, but a lot. And
Mhm.
so, me showing up to my show and having my guitar rig not work is a great example of my not having my butt covered, right? It was an
Mhm.
unprofessional move, right? But if you think in terms of what are the worst case, or at least not best case, things that could happen that I need to be prepared for, and how can I build into my show some moments where I can keep what needs to happen happening while I deal with that.
Yeah. So, what I'm thinking about is our year's winding up and we've got some time to work through things. It's probably a good idea for us to go ahead and build out our show for 2025. And what that looks like for us is to build our normal 275 corporate event situation,
Mhm.
our 2-hour municipal situation,
Yep.
and basically like go ahead and orchestrate these things. Because when you're doing these kind of public events, those are the ones where you really need to show up and show out. So if you know that in the summer you're going to do X number of these public events where you're going to do a 2-hour set and it's all killer, no filler, go ahead and build that show out and like build it. Make it a spectacle, make it an experience. Put the transitions in, put whatever show flow you're doing. Don't think just about the songs. Think about the flow, think about energy level, think about the emotional component. Like really drill down to what is going to make an audience member who's never seen you before, has no frame of reference, show up to a thing where they've got zero expectations and walk out going, holy hell, that was incredible.
Yeah.
What are these guys doing next?
Right.
And a little bit of planning. You and your bandmates spending 30 to 45 minutes on a random Thursday night,
Yeah.
you could do incredible work for your group over the next 12 months
Yes.
doing something like that.
Yes.
So, highly recommend doing that. Spend this time as the year's winding down with some intention and build this show out where downtime is not a thing that exists. Every second is accounted for. Every
Yep.
move is accounted for. Everything is planned out ahead of time. And just, work through the contingencies where you can be flexible in the face of something going sideways and not panic, which is, wishful thinking, but whatever.
Well, if you thought it through in advance, if you thought through, you don't need to know what the emergency is to know that there'll be times you might need a minute.
Sure.
So plan it out. Build in those minutes.
And then also think about your systems. Think about if you're using playback, what's the most efficient way to manage that? If you are a guitar player, what is a solution to make sure that your instruments are as stable as they can possibly be tuning wise?
Yeah.
Think about the things that would typically cause downtime in your show and then take those opportunities to mitigate the risks of those things occurring.
Exactly.
I keep thinking about like every year I'm like, I'm going to buy a guitar with a Floyd just because I know that.
Will you ever gig it? I won't.
Oh, yeah, because if I do, that's a guitar that never goes out of tune,
I mean, all right. That's
Is it
not
a
my
pain in the
experience
butt
with
to set up?
Floyds.
The intent of having a Floyd is not so that I can like dive bomb and do all of that stuff. But the idea of having a guitar that is always in tune, and then, maybe it's a flat mount and you can put a detuner in it, which means that even if you have to switch tunings,
Yeah.
you can literally just, you pull a thing and like nothing else changes.
Right.
Like that's huge. That's a value add. That's something that's worth considering.
Yeah.
Or looking at guitars with Evertune bridges where like they like literally never got a tune ever.
Right.
You tune them once.
Yeah.
And then,
Yeah,
for
that's
the
pretty
end of
cool.
time.
Those are pretty cool.
There are ways of doing this where you can literally you put your guitar on and then the show just happens and that's it.
Also good. I have been working out how I'm going to automate all of my pedal changes from Band Helper, from
Mhm.
automation tracks in Band Helper. It's so great. I mean, the ones that I did at our proof of concept show where it popped into my lead patch and I was playing the lead and then it popped back into the rhythm patch right on time and it was great. It was great. I know it's a little different from presetting, the guitar to be reliable. That's not reliability. It's sort of ease of performance, but it's all in the
But
same world. It's all
yeah,
about preparation. It's all about setup that gets you, able to. So now I'm able to engage with the crowd when I kick into my beginning of my solo rather than looking up from, did I hit the right stomp button on my thing, right? It's all about putting out the best performance you can. And that takes prior preparation.
yep. But the good news is that right now you may have time to do that.
Right.
But it takes intention. Dan and I both stared down the barrel of gigs that we hadn't done before, and we could have done more, and we didn't.
Right.
So learn from our mistakes.
That's right. That's right. I don't regret what I did and didn't do. I'm perfectly happy. But
No
I could have,
regrets.
I could have done more and will do.
Yeah.
It was a good toe in the water.
Yeah. So this is one of the. This is an episode where I'm going to sometimes the guys in the group listen to the episode. Sometimes I'll be like, let's listen to this one. Let's see if I can get everybody on board. I did get a text from Jeff who apparently listened to the episode. Maybe I don't know if it was yesterday or the day before. He's like, "Hey man, thanks for saying that." Because I was like, "He's the best.
Yeah.
He's the person that needs to be doing that." He was like, he appreciated being called out, for that. So
Good. He is the best.
I know it's just being a content creator where like everything is front facing is a little tricky because you do have to, you got to watch what you say or how you say things because that the guys that you work with and, care about the most, you're going to hear about it. So
Totally. Yeah.
It's a unique, set of challenges, but,
Listen, I'm aware that guys in the last band I was in listen to the
mhm.
podcast. So yeah, I gotta be respectful of. They were great. I love playing with them, and
Yeah.
I love them as people, and it's all good. When that relationship was changing, I had to be a little more cautious about how I talked about it. But it's fine. It's all fine. It's all good.
Yep. It all comes out in the wash, as they say.
Yep. 100%.
Well, Dane, hopefully that answers your question. I feel like all we did was kind of like reinforce your mindset.
But your mindset is the right one, so reinforce it.
Yeah, it's just that now you just have you got to do the thing.
Right? No, we gave you work to do for sure.
I think that's literally what we're here to do. We're just here to make the person that's the squeaky wheel in every band do more work.
That's right.
Yeah. So you're welcome. I'm sorry. Like, what do you say?
Yeah.
Dane, this, I've got mixed emotions about this, but hopefully this is what you were looking for. Any other parting words?
No, just always be ready.
Yep. Think about work all the angles.
Work all the angles.
Buy a Floyd. Get a wing rack.
I don't know about buy a Floyd.
There's no problem that can't be solved by spending money.
Ooh, wow. We'll unpack that one next week.
Yeah, no, I've got one more week.
No, we'll be together next week, and then next week.
Then you guys, you and
we'll
whoever
do whatever we do the week after.
You can unpack whatever I say the week after.
Perfect.
Folks, thanks so much for tuning in. I feel like the show's just crushing right now. Like Dan and I are, you guys actually, it's got nothing to do with me and Dan. You guys have been really thoughtful and asking like incredible questions that have just made it really easy for us to, crank out really solid episodes. So this works because you guys are awesome. So thank you again. And, if you want to support the show, you can do that a number of ways. And also, I just got more stickers. So if you ever see me out in public, be like, hey, where's my sticker at? I got a bunch of them. So
sweet.
That includes you guys out in the UK. If I'm out and about, just be like, where's my sticker at? I got you.
Love it.
But otherwise, that's pretty much it. I'll go ahead and call it for this week. In Atlanta, Georgia, I'm Adam Johnson.
In Greensboro, North Carolina, I'm Dan Ray.
You have been listening to the Coverband Confidential podcast for the week of November 22nd, 2024.